I never imagined that learning about crazy medieval battles could be so life-changing. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was just another rainy Tuesday, the kind that seeps gloom into your bones, but I was about to dive headfirst into a world I never knew existed. My ordinary life was thrown upside down the moment I stumbled upon a dusty book in the corner of that musty old library. My hands trembled as I opened its pages. There they were, scenarios painted in blood and valor. The images flashed vividly in my mind. Knights clashing in a ferocious storm, swords glinting like lightning. I could almost hear the thunder of hooves and the cries of men, the scent of sweat and iron filling the air. It was intoxicating. Battlefields strewn with the fallen, each one with a story that begged to be told. I was mesmerized. And as I let myself fall deeper into the tales, I began to discover the weirdest facts. Did you know they sometimes used elephants as living tanks? They were massive, sweeping through foes like a force of nature. Or how about the gruesome practice of using the enemy's own heads as trophies? The chills ran down my spine, sending a shiver through my entire being. Each fact was like a punch to my gut, raw and powerful. But as I read, shadows tugged at my thoughts. My father, once a historian, no longer spoke of his passions. The connection we used to share had become a cold void, the kind of silence that crushes. He fought his own battles, demons I feared I would inherit. Could this world of bloodshed bring us back together? With every turn of a page, I sensed a deepening urgency. The weight of history was palpable, like a thick fog creeping in. The room swirled with possibility. Were there answers hidden in these centuries-old tales? Battles fought not just for land, but for love, for revenge. I couldn't shake the feeling that something in my own life echoed these stories, waiting to erupt, but just as I felt my heart race with hope, there it was, a revelation. A battle long forgotten, a name I recognized from family whispers. A legacy intertwined with my own. My hands shook as I read further. Could it be? The connection felt like a storm gathering, ready to unleash chaos. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain continued its relentless descent, each drop an echoing reminder of the heaviness within me. I clutched the book to my chest, my heart racing, torn between fascination and dread. As darkness crept in through the library window, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck prickling like the thrumming energy before a storm. The name I had read was tethered to me in unexplainable ways, a bond that seemed richer than blood yet heavier than any burden I had ever known. I had to know more. I needed to unravel the threads of this legacy woven intricately into the tapestry of my family history. What awaited me beyond the pages was uncharted territory, still shrouded in mystery. Driven by a force I couldn't ignore, I left the library that day with a determination that perhaps, just perhaps, I could reignite the flame within my father by uncovering the darkest parts of our ancestral past. Day after day, I meticulously catalogued my findings. Pages became my sanctuary, a refuge from the silence at home. Each revelation propelled me forward, a flicker of hope igniting in the corners of my heart, the realization that maybe my father wasn't lost to me forever. But with each detail I discovered, the truth grew heavier, an intricate web of betrayal entwined with valor. I knew that unearthing family secrets often came with consequence, but I felt trapped between respect for history and the desire to break free. That Friday evening revealed new shadows in the storm. The gusts rattled the windows like ghostly whispers. I decided to confront my father, to share what I had found, hoping for a spark. As I entered the dimly lit living room, he sat on the worn couch, blankly staring at an empty page of an old notebook. The familiar silence wrapped around us, suffocating yet electric. "Dad?" My voice was timid, breaking through the stillness. I found something." He turned slowly, his eyes weary but curious. "What is it?" I took a breath and plunged in. It's about our family and a battle that ties back to us. I watched him tense, a flicker of something behind his eyes, but he remained silent, prompting me to continue. I recounted the lineage, the valor, the tragedy. Each word seemed to cut through years of estrangement, bridging the silence that lay heavily between us. When I reached the climax of the tale, the betrayal that had cost generations, I watched as my father's expression morphed from curiosity to disbelief. "You shouldn't be digging into that." His tone was sharp, and in that moment, years of unresolved pain surfaced, creating an unexpected wall. "But, Dad, this could help us. There is so much to learn." My hope wavered, fighting against the frustration that swelled within him. "Sometimes, it's best to let the past lie," he growled, his eyes darkening as if each word had brought forth buried memories too painful to confront. The air grew heavy, thick with emotions and unspoken words. I felt the ache of my heart twisting in anger and sadness. Clenching my fists, I debated for a moment before retreating, allowing bitterness to seep in. As I turned, disappointment shadowed my heart. History would remain unyielding, a barrier against understanding, but as I stepped into the hallway, I couldn't shake the glimmer of hope that had flickered. There was kindness in remembering our shared name, however fractured our bond had become. I refused to allow this moment to shatter the fragile connection I had built with the past. That weekend, I returned to the library, seeking solace in the stories that had captivated me so. In the back corner, beneath the watchful gaze of the ancient tomes, I found her, an elderly woman, her frail fingers tracing the spine of a book. She caught my gaze and smiled, a warmth radiating from her that felt like sunlight breaking through the rain. "Are you lost in stories, too?" she asked, her voice a gentle embrace. I exhaled deeply, leaning into her kindness. "Trying to understand my past. Sometimes, it takes a stranger to remind us of who we are," she replied, her eyes twinkling with knowing. "Or perhaps, we hold the key to unlock a future." Her words spiraled in my mind like fragments of a puzzle, each piece waiting to find its purpose. Perhaps she was the thread I needed to weave through the discontent that lingered at home. As I absorbed her kindness, the storm of doubt receded slightly, and compassion seeped in. Just then, a loud crash of thunder rattled the library, and the lights flickered ominously. I felt a chill run through me, an omen that hinted all was not as it seemed. In this labyrinth of history, shadows loomed larger than I understood, yet ready to unveil secrets that could dismantle what little connection I had left. Suddenly, a gust swept through, sending papers flying across the room. Among them, one single sheet caught my eye, distinct from the rest, fluttering wildly as if urging me closer. When I picked it up, my heart dropped. There it was, a faded photograph of a knight, his piercing eyes hauntingly familiar, with a name recognized from the whispers in my own family, my great-great-grandfather. I gasped, realization dawning with the force of a gale. My breath quickened. The legacy had awakened, and its tendrils were closing in. The photograph trembled in my hands, the sepia tones mingling with my growing confusion. My great-great-grandfather, his resolute gaze seemed to pierce through time, beckoning me to unearth the truth buried beneath family lore. I turned the picture over, hoping for some clue, but the back held nothing but the weight of history. I felt a whirlwind of emotions surge within me, a cocktail of fear, intrigue, and an insatiable longing to know. As I stood in that library, surrounded by stories of valor and betrayal, the elderly woman's voice echoed in my mind. "Sometimes, it takes a stranger to remind us of who we are." I realized I wasn't merely a passive observer in this unfolding tale. I was part of it, tangled in the roots of legacy and the consequences that had stemmed from it. But at home, with the photograph cradled close to my chest, the storm between my father and me loomed larger than ever. The weight of my discoveries felt different now. It was not just knowledge, but a living, breathing entity pushing against my chest. I decided I would confront him again, but this time, fortified by a sense of purpose that I lacked before. That evening, as twilight poured through the window and shadows stretched across the walls, I steeled myself for another confrontation. I found my father in the same position as the last time, the empty notebook still open on his lap. His brow furrowed as I entered, sensing perhaps that this would not be an ordinary encounter. "Dad," I began, my voice trembling but resolute, "I found something that could change everything." He glanced up, and this time, his expression was guarded, protective. "What is it?" I held the photograph before him, my heart racing. It's our history, a part of it, at least. This is him. My great-great-grandfather. His eyes widened, the veneer of indifference cracking. Where did you get that? His voice was tight, barely breaking through the layers of emotion that had cloaked him. I found it in the library. There is so much more to learn, Dad. I think no, he interrupted, shaking his head vehemently. You mustn't go down this path. It's not one you want to walk. But it's ours. This is our legacy, our family. I pleaded, desperation creeping into my voice. Don't you see? This could help us understand what we've been carrying all this time. A silence fell, heavier than before. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a glimmer of the man I used to know before sorrow had wrapped around him like ivy. Then it was gone, replaced by a resolute mask. It doesn't matter. What's in the past, it's better left buried. His dismissal stung, and I felt anger swell within me. But maybe it can help us heal. I shot back, desperation lacing my words. You can't shut the door on our history just because it's painful. He stood abruptly, the chair screeching against the wooden floor like a warning bell. You think you can confront ghosts? You think you can steal away the memories that haunt me? I won't let you do this. His denial burned in my chest, and for a moment, I wondered if breaking down the walls would be a path I had to take alone. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. The weight of his hurt was a visceral thing, pressing down on the air between us. Then, in a moment of clarity, I realized I had been so focused on uncovering the past that I had neglected to address his pain. Dad, I said softly, I just want to understand you. I want us to be close again. But before he could respond, the room plunged into chaos as a thunderclap shook the house. It rattled pictures on the walls, and for a terrifying moment, I feared the storm that had been brewing within my father might erupt too. He stood rigid, fists clenched at his sides, as if the very foundation of our home was shaking with the weight of our unresolved conflicts. I breathed deeply, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to sweep me away. Please, I whispered, let us talk about this together. But he looked away, his face a mask of anguish as he mutely moved toward the hallway, the air thick with unsaid words, a testament to years of denial defeated. I slumped into the chair, the photograph slipping from my fingers and landing softly on the floor. I couldn't understand why he wouldn't let me in, why this storm within him raged so fiercely. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring the edges of my reality in a deluge of desperation. As I glanced down at the photograph, a chill crawled down my spine, a dawning horror creeping in. I had ignored the strangest detail, one that felt like a specter hovering just out of reach. I snatched it up again, my heart pounding in my chest as the shadows of uncertainty loomed larger. Who was the man with the familiar gaze? What had he done? Just then, my phone buzzed, the only light in the dim room. I picked it up, the screen illuminating my features in ghostly hues. It was a text from an unknown number. I know who you're looking for. Meet me at the old church tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. My heart raced anew, the familiar sense of dread creeping back, but mixed with a strange thrill. I had stumbled upon something deep, something that tied me even further to my past, an uncharted territory where I must tread cautiously yet boldly. As the tempest outside howled once more, I felt a decision crystallize in me. I would face whatever awaited me at the church, and perhaps, just perhaps, I could find the key to unlocking not just my family's past but also my father's heart. The air in my room felt thick with uncertainty, suffocating me with possibilities. I clutched the photograph tightly, as if it held the answers to every question that swirled in my mind. That solitary moment, the pale glow of my phone's screen illuminating my face, revealed not only a call to adventure but a desperate plea to confront the depths of my lineage. I understood the risks that awaited me at the church, but the fear of remaining stagnant in the limbo of unanswered questions churned within me like an untamed storm. This mysterious message felt like an elevator to the truth, one I didn't want to miss. Yet a part of me grappled with the potential consequences. What if I discovered that my great-great-grandfather was not the noble figure I imagined? What if I unearthed a legacy steeped in darkness far worse than I could fathom? I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection, the photograph slipping from my grip and landing back on the floor, the chill of the wooden boards beneath whispering stories untold. It was difficult to imagine a family history riddled with conflict and despair. But in that instant, I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and joy that must have once graced our lineage. I absent-mindedly wiped the tears from my cheeks, resolving not to let this moment slip away. Tomorrow at midnight. I couldn't shake off the urgency that enveloped me, and an idea wrestled its way to the forefront of my mind. My father wouldn't approve of my journey, but perhaps he didn't have to know yet. This could be the key to the door I yearned to open. The night dragged on, but sleep eluded me, my heart pounding with the anticipation of what lay ahead. As the clock ticked ever closer to midnight, I could almost hear the whispers of the past calling for attention. The storm outside mirrored the internal battle I waged, throwing shadows against the walls that felt alive and urging me forward. Finally, as the hour approached, I dressed in muted colors, determined to blend into the anonymity of the night. Just as I stepped outside, the cool air of the evening enveloped me, and I felt a shiver coursing through my spine. Standing beneath the dim glow of a street lamp, I took in the surrendering sky, the stars obscured by the anger of gathering clouds. With every step towards the church, I envisioned the secretive meeting that awaited me, a wish to uncover the truth masked in a shroud of darkness. The cobblestone street seemed to whisper beneath my feet, guiding me through the labyrinth of my thoughts. Would this stranger hold the key to my father's silence? Would the stories of old illuminate the shadows that had plagued our family for generations? As I neared the church, the silhouette loomed larger in the moonlight, an imposing structure standing resolutely against the storm. I hesitated at the entrance, breathing in the heavy scent of history that lingered in the air. My heart raced uncontrollably. Nothing could prepare me for the revelations awaiting me inside. Pushing the heavy door open, it creaked ominously, revealing the dimly lit space that felt both welcoming and forbidding. My senses heightened, I scanned the room, eyes darting between candles casting flickering lights and the rows of ancient pews. There was no one here but me. As the seconds ticked away, the silence grew oppressive, and doubt gnawed at the edges of my resolve. But just then, footsteps reverberated behind me, slicing through the stillness. I turned, every nerve ending ignited, and found myself face to face with a cloaked figure, shadows dancing across their face. "Are you here for the truth?" the figure asked, their voice echoing as if it belonged to a different time. I hesitated, feeling the weight of their gaze piercing through my facade. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, heart racing, the words caught in my throat. They pulled back their hood, revealing an expression etched with knowing, a depth behind their eyes I couldn't quite grasp. "I am someone who knows the story you're trying to uncover." My breath hitched, a knot of anxiety and intrigue coiling tighter. "You know about my family? More than you realize. But you need to understand some truths may shatter everything you hold dear." I felt the air thicken around me, laden with uncertainty. Hope danced within me, conflicting with potential devastation. "I need to know," I murmured, the resolve invading my voice. "I want to understand. For my father, for our family." The stranger paused for a heartbeat, the gravity of my words hanging in the air. And with that brief hesitation, I knew I had made my choice, and it would irrevocably change everything. But just as they opened their mouth, a resounding crash echoed from outside, the sound of shattering glass. Both of us jumped at the impact, and the stranger's expression shifted from calm to alert, fear simmering just beneath the surface. "We need to go," they urged urgently. "There's no time to lose." Suddenly, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Before I could respond, the lights flickered, plunging the church into darkness. My heart raced as panic gripped me. Fear for what was outside and the uncertainty of the stranger's intentions filled the air like an impending thunderstorm, and then, the unmistakable sound of my father's voice echoed like a haunting refrain, calling out my name from the shadows of a past I hoped to understand. "No, no, not my child. Come with me," the stranger insisted, their eyes glinting with urgency, pulling me away from the encroaching darkness. I hesitated, knowing that whatever truth awaited me would tether me closer to my father. But as the storm raged around us, I was left standing at the precipice of choice, a life teetering on the brink of revelation. With my heart pounding, I realized that no matter the truth, there would always be a price to pay. The last cries of thunder rumbled like the echoes of a distant battle, adding an ominous overtone to the chaos that surrounded me. My heart raced, veering toward panic as I struggled between the beckoning darkness of my father's voice and the unknown safety that the stranger represented. It felt like the weight of centuries rested on my shoulders. "Follow me," the cloaked figure urged again, their intensity rising as a flickering candle nearby offered the briefest illumination of their features. "We don't have much time before he finds us." With a frantic glance towards the doorway where my father's voice faded and morphed into a tempest of anguished cries, I felt an urge to tear away from the stranger and run into the night, seeking my dad. But a more profound instinct drew me toward the shadowed figure, and understanding that the path to clarity lay beyond the chaos. I stepped forward, crossing the threshold between the known and the unknowable. Every instinct told me to retreat, yet every heartbeat urged me onward. The weight of my past beckoned like a siren song, pulling me into its depths. The stranger led me through a narrow passage that smelled of damp earth and dust. Eventually, we arrived at a heavy wooden door cloaked in silence. It creaked open, revealing a cramped room filled with a warmth that contrasted starkly with the storm outside. Flickering lanterns lined the walls, illuminating shelves crowded with artifacts and scrolls. This place echoed with the remnants of history. My history. I stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind me with a definitive finality. The stranger moved quickly, shoving an old book off a table, creating a clutter of dust and echoes. "You must know this before it's too late," they urged. "Your family has a legacy intertwined with powers that reach far beyond this world." "Powers?" I questioned, disbelief mingling with intrigue. "Yes, powers, secrets long buried to protect you from forces that would seek to control your spirit." They moved closer, their expression earnest and piercing. "Your father has kept these truths at bay for his own reasons, but you need to see what lies ahead." Each word dripped with urgency, stirring a whirlwind of fear and fascination. "What do you mean? What has he kept from me?" "The battles fought by your great-great-grandfather were not merely for land or honor," they explained, voice grave. "They were battles against dark entities that sought to claim our very essence. Those who fought were warriors of light, bound to protect the legacies that run through your veins. But the price was steep, sacrifices made and curses laid." My breath caught in my throat. Why would my father hide this? Fear. He feared for you, just as he feared the truth might taint the purity of love he wished to shield. But now, you're at the precipice. Choices must be made. I stepped back, processing the weight of their words. My father, a figure I had idolized as my protector, was woven into this tapestry of shadows. The betrayal of that revelation stung, yet a flicker of understanding began to bloom. "You said there was no time. What's happening outside?" The stranger cast a worried glance toward the door, the ambience shifting as vibrations of anger rattled through the walls. "What you heard your father's voice. He knows you are here. He will seek to protect you, but he may not realize the true danger that lurks. We are not alone." Before I could ask for clarity, a loud pounding echoed through the room. The floor trembled beneath us. "He's coming," the stranger breathed, urgency etching lines across their forehead. "You must choose. Will you stand with your family's history, face the truth that will shake the very foundation of your life, or will you return to your past, knowing ignorance may not shield you forever?" Desperation clawed at my chest, oscillating between a longing to dive deeper into the truth and a primal terror of losing a bond that had once felt steadfast. I glanced at the books, scrolls, and artifacts surrounding me, intricately connected to a belligerent history that felt as far removed from the mundane world I inhabited as the stars were from the earth. My voice faltered, anxiety quickly clouding the thoughts racing through my mind, each possibility shimmering with doubt. But determination ignited. The lessons of the past could no longer remain shrouded in veils of silence. "The truth," I finally declared, the words feeling like a pact sealed by my deep yearning. "I want to know what my family fought for, and I will not turn back. I need to confront whatever darkness awaits." The stranger's eyes glimmered with a mix of relief and intensity. "Then we must prepare. This may lead to a confrontation with your father, but I believe his heart is still redeemable. He may yet help rather than hinder your path." Before I could say another word, a fierce gust of wind whipped open the door, revealing my father, drenched but glaring with a fierce conviction. "No?" he shouted, hastily stepping into the room, eyes ablaze with a mixture of rage and desperation. "You don't understand the danger you're placing yourself in." Panic gripped me, the weight of my father's presence shifting the room's energy. "Dad, please," I pleaded, "I'm here to understand. I have to know what you've kept from me." Time hung suspended in that moment, a fragile thread poised on the brink of rupture. The storm echoed around us, a war raging not just outside but within the hearts of those bound by invisible cords of love and fear. As the tension mounted, the darkness deepening around us, the stranger whispered, "What happens next will change everything." With those haunting words echoing in my mind, I braced for the confrontation, aware that it would lead to secrets never meant to be unearthed, a fated clash between the desire for truth and the shelter of lies. The ground beneath me felt like it was giving way, as if the very foundation of my existence was about to shatter, scattering fragments of my life into the storm. The silence that followed my father's furious entrance weighed heavily, thick as the storm's clouds that curled like dark fingers outside. His presence filled the room, eclipsing everything. His eyes were dangerous, fierce with a love that could just as easily become a weapon. "Get away from her!" he shouted, his gaze piercing through the stranger, who stood their ground, uneased but resolute. "John, listen, she deserves to know," the stranger implored, stepping defiantly between my father and me. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about her legacy, about fighting the same battles that you've hidden. You don't understand the dangers of that world." My father's voice boomed like thunder, reverberating through the room. "There are evils, real evils that consume those who dare to unlock what's buried deep within." His tone dropped, transforming into a sudden tremor of vulnerability. "I didn't want this for her. I wanted to protect her from it all." "Protect her?" The stranger shot back, anger flickering in their eyes. "You've built a prison around her heart, John. She'll never be free until she knows who she truly is." The tension crackled between them, and I felt the encroaching fear claw at my insides. It wasn't just their conflict, it was a rift opening in my very understanding of family. My heart thudded painfully. Did he love me so little that he thought ignorance was strength? Or had he loved me too much, intent on shielding me from a darkness that now seemed inevitable? "Daddy," I whispered, breaking the mounting pressure. My voice trembled with uncertainty, entreating him, the warmth of his name unraveling something within me. "You've kept so much from me. I don't want the shadows. I just want the truth." For a moment, my father's face softened, caught in the currents of memory. I saw snippets of him as a child, perhaps haunted, perhaps brave, but always grappling with shadows that seemed to stretch infinitely. Then, that softness became steel again. "You don't know what you're asking for. Everything you uncover puts you in danger." His gaze darted to the stranger, laced with accusation. "You are only making this worse." A flicker of empathy crossed the stranger's features. "She has every right to know, John. You've fought your demons and won, so why stifle her fight before it even begins?" Determination ignited within me. "You chose to fight those demons. I want that choice too." It felt free to say those words, even as fear churned in my stomach. My father faltered, his expression a turbulent storm of emotions, not just anger, but fear, deep-rooted worry etched into his skin like lines on an ancient map. But before he could respond, a sudden screech sliced through the air. The very walls trembled as if protesting our confrontation, followed by an unnerving silence that seemed to swallow the room whole. My father's expression shifted. An urgency overshadowed his previous dissent as realization washed over him. "Stay close," he ordered, backing away from the door slowly. The stranger moved to stand beside me, tension coiling tight around our shoulders like a noose. "What is happening?" I breathed, my voice barely more than a whisper as dread settled in the pit of my stomach. The shadows in the room seemed to pulse, and I could almost feel the walls closing in. An unnaturally cold gust of wind gusted through the cracks of the room, extinguishing the flickering lanterns one by one. It was as if the darkness had awakened, creeping toward us, hungry, primal. I could sense it grasping at my mind, whispering doubts and fears, urging me to hide, to flee, away from the past that demanded my attention. "We have to go," my father suddenly shouted, his voice rising above the encroaching chaos. There's no time. The sense of urgency sparked panic. Questions bombarded me. Who was coming? What was lurking in the shadows outside? And then came the thoughts that sent chills along my spine. Had my father kept more than just secrets from me? Were there forces at play that transcended my understanding, his love meant to shelter me becoming a cage instead? Please, don't fight, I cried, as confusion swirled within. My heart thundered, fear mixed with determination. It was challenging to grasp this vast truth framed around my life when dread was looming right at the door. With a response that felt almost instinctual, my father extended his hand toward me, the tenderness juxtaposing the urgency of the moment. We need to trust each other, Sophie. I need your trust if we're to face this together. The words held weight, a promise laced with hope amidst the chaos. I reached for his hand, trembling but resolute, ready to step forward into whatever darkness awaited us, but in that crucial moment of connection, a loud bang reverberated from beyond the door, catching us all off guard. The lock splintered, a shadow loomed against the threshold, heavier than the night itself, a shape I couldn't yet comprehend. Your time is up, a voice hissed, rich with malice, threading through the storm as the door swung open. In that terrifying moment, every instinct screamed at me to look away, to recoil from the truth threatening to unveil itself. But I stood frozen, heart racing as I realized, my life was no longer just my own. The battle was unfurling, and whether I liked it or not, I was now entwined deeply in this legacy. And just as I thought I saw a flicker of a familiar face through the gloom, recognition struck like a bolt of lightning, leaving me reeling. The shadows were not just unknown foes, they were entangled with my family, with love, betrayal, and hidden truths that could unravel the fabric of my very existence. The darkness rushed in, swirling around us like a living entity, and I felt my heart slip into a frantic rhythm. My father's grip tightened around my hand, a lifeline tethering me to reality amid uncertainty. The figure beyond the threshold was cloaked in shadows, their features obscured, but the voice sent a chill skittering down my spine. You've hidden her long enough, John, the spectre sneered, stepping into the dim light that flickered uncertainly from the remnants of our lanterns. As the shadows receded slightly, I could make out a face that twisted my insides, a woman, with cold, familiar eyes that seemed to dance with a history I had yet to understand. Rachel, my father breathed, a name that hung in the air heavy with unspoken stories that felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. The woman's smile was sharp, a predator in the dimness. I see you've taken my advice, John. It seems our dear Sophie is finally ready for the truth. How commendable of you. Stay back, he shouted, stepping in front of me, as if his mere presence could shield me from whatever darkness she embodied. You have no place here. Just like you had no place in my life. Rachel countered, venom threading through her words. You always were good at building walls, John. Protecting yourself and your precious daughter, but the walls will fall, they must. It's time for her to learn what she is destined for. My mind whirled, trying to piece together fragments of who this woman was and what she had done. What do you want from us? I managed to voice, though my words felt small and trapped. The dichotomy of fear and confusion gripped my heart as I looked to my father, searching for any sign that he would explain the chasm that had just widened between us. Rachel laughed, the sound unsettling, like the cracking of ice. I want nothing from you, Sophie. But your father, he's the one clinging desperately to the past. He wants you to live a life in shadows, without knowing the truths that could set you free. The battles he fought were not his alone, they were for you too. But he hides, hoping to keep you safe from a war you're inevitably part of. The weight of her words sank deep into the marrow of my bones. A war? I echoed, struggling to grasp what her insinuations meant. What are you talking about? But before anyone could answer, a low rumble shook the ground beneath us, a foreboding promise that something wicked was brewing just outside the confines of our sanctuary. Come now, we wouldn't want to celebrate here in the dark now, would we? Rachel said smoothly. If you truly wish to uncover her legacy, then let us make it interesting. Your choices, John, have dire consequences. Get out. You're not welcome here. My father's voice rang with finality, a defensive barricade that felt strangely hollow against the impending threat. Welcome or not, I intend to unveil what has been concealed for far too long. Her eyes glimmered with a manic glee that felt almost palpable. Good luck holding back the tide, because tonight will mark the beginning of choices, the beginning of truths. With that, she slipped back into the shadows, retreating but not without leaving us in a strangling tension. The door hung ajar, allowing cold air to sweep in, urging me to wonder what mirage lay beyond. My father's gaze met mine in that fractious moment, searching my eyes for answers to questions we couldn't voice. The flickering light cast shifting shadows, but rather than the warmth of hope, it drew out our fears, memories of his protective barriers crumbling. What does she mean? Am I a part of a battle I don't even know about? I whispered, the question laden with trepidation and curiosity. He sighed heavily, vulnerability etched into every line of his face. Sophie, I wanted to tell you everything. The world I shielded you from was meant to keep you safe, but Rachel is right about one thing: there are choices to be made. You cannot run from who you are. If she comes for you, you must stand strong. My heart fluttered erratically, the swirl of fear and determination waging war within me. What had my father been fighting? What did my life really mean within this tangled web? As if sensing my tumultuous thoughts, he stroked my hair back gently. There is still time, my love. I will protect you, no matter what. But you must trust that this— he hesitated, eyes narrowing toward the door— is only the beginning. We must get out of here, we can't confront her alone. Just then, a distant crash echoed in the night, and I realized the faint sounds of a struggle outside, the consequences of darkness encroaching on our fragile reality. I looked to my father, the tears blur my vision, the weight of legacy felt heavier than ever before. We can't leave without knowing more. I deserve to know who I am, what this life entails. I can't be afraid forever. I shouted, the protest spilling from my heart like a flood, desperation mixing with anger. His face contorted in pain as he struggled against my resolve. No, I won't let you down that path. You think you want the truth, but it will cost you everything. The urgency in his voice shook me, but the fire within ignited with a painful intensity. Everything is already at stake. I yelled, determination sharpening the edges of my words. The unknown pulled me like a siren's call, and I felt the stirring in my veins, the slightest hint of power that begged to be unleashed despite the warnings chaining me down. A louder bang echoed from outside, and my pulse hammered with sudden clarity. I can't turn back now. My words were resolute, a promise to myself that reverberated in the tender places of my heart. With our lives hanging by the thread of choices yet to be made, I looked at my father one last time, vulnerability wrestling with defiance. Ahead of us, the shadows danced, the door still ajar, my finger tingling with a newfound strength, and in that moment, I understood, this was merely the beginning of my own story, one that would unfold whether I was ready or not, and with conviction, I stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead as the door swung shut behind me, sealing away the bastion of old fears in a chilling finality. The world beyond the threshold felt alive, crackling with a power I couldn't identify but could sense in the air, heavy with the remnants of an unseen storm. Each breath I took filled my lungs with the metallic scent of rain-soaked earth and the sharp tang of adrenaline. I stood at the precipice of discovery, a gaping chasm of uncertainty stretching before me, and yet each heartbeat pulsed with an odd promise of something transformative waiting to unfold. My father's voice broke through the symphony of chaos that swelled outside, a tether to the world I was leaving behind. Sophie, please. The plea wrapped around me like a silken thread, urging me to consider the lengths to which he'd gone to protect me, yet the very essence of my being ignited with the fervor of change. I couldn't simply stand by anymore, cloaked in ignorance, watching as the storm gathered strength. Taking a deep breath, I turned back toward him, gathering the fragments of courage that felt as fragile as spider silk. If I'm to fight, then I have to know what I'm fighting for, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The thrum of my heart echoed my certainty. I'll face Rachel. I need to understand this legacy, the battles you fought, the truths you concealed from me. It's time to unveil the past. Shock spread across my father's face, contorting into a mixture of pride and despair. He stepped forward, urgency etched deeply on his brow. Sophie, you don't know what you're asking. Embracing this legacy will invite darkness into your life. Rachel's truths are twisted, she will manipulate you to suit her desires. But they are my truths too. I countered, the fire in my chest swirling closer to the surface. I deserve to know what I'm a part of, not to be caged by secrets and fear. As the echoes of our confrontation faded, an intense silence enveloped us, only to be broken by a loud crash followed by frantic footsteps outside. The tension in the air shifted, filling the void left by our words. I felt the pull to venture forth, to confront whatever awaited me beyond the door, a tumultuous urge so strong it coursed through me like electricity. In that moment of indecision, a glimmer of light caught my eye, a flicker that danced just at the edge of my consciousness. I turned towards it, squinting into the darkness to finally catch a glimpse of a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a boy, no older than me, his expression a mixture of defiance and raw determination. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes sparkled with an intensity one had never seen before, almost reflecting my own fears and rage. "Sophie!" he shouted, his voice a sharp slice through the heaviness. "You need to come with me. It's not safe here." My gaze snapped to my father, who looked as though he had seen a ghost. "Liam?" he whispered, disbelief lacing his tone. The name struck a chord in my memory, fragments of dusty photographs and vague conversations about friends he had once fought alongside. "That's right, John," the boy replied, adrenaline amplifying the urgency of his plea. "You can't keep her hidden forever. Rachel isn't the only power at play here. The council is moving, and there's no time left." "Council?" My heart quickened. The ground shook beneath us once more, embers of the past igniting at the mention of an entity I sensed loomed larger than I ever imagined. Liam flashed me a knowing look, conviction threading his features, his presence filling the empty spaces of my uncertainty. "Your father has been keeping secrets not just from you, but from the world around you. You're not alone in this. We can help each other." The air buzzed with possibilities, the inklings of alliances forged in desperation swirling at the edge of my reality. "But why now? Why would you help me?" I asked, feeling an inexplicable bond form between us, a shared understanding of the weight we both bore. "Because," he replied, stepping closer, the shadows stretching around us in the flickering light, "the sooner you face your past, the stronger you'll become. Only together can we fight the darkness that seeks to claim you." I felt the gravity of his words. Was I truly ready to embrace this connection, this alliance forged in a moment saturated with urgency? I glanced at my father, whose eyes reflected a painful turmoil, as if he were struggling between protecting me and allowing me to step into my own destiny, and then, from the deepening shadows, Rachel's laughter echoed a haunting melody threading through the air, reminding me of the stakes that loomed, choices yet to be made, battles waiting to be waged, and the very foundation of my life trembling under the weight of ancient truths. "I have to make this choice," I whispered, scarcely recognizing the voice that carried the weight of determination and weakness alike. "I'll follow you, Liam," I said, meeting his gaze with a newfound clarity. "But first, I need to confront her. It's time to face Rachel and learn who I truly am." In that moment, our bond solidified, the promise of understanding kindling inside me. I could feel my father's heartbreak clashing with the vibrant pulse of hope kindled in my heart, a tempest I was ready to embrace, yet just as I stepped closer to Liam, ready to follow him into the unknown, the final fracture of silence broke, a deafening crash shattered the night, and Rachel's silhouette emerged once more, this time accompanied by a gathering storm of shadows that swarmed like a living entity hungry for the light. "I see you've chosen, Sophie," she purred, her voice dripping with malice. "How delightful. The council will be eager to hear you've come to play." As the darkness rolled in with the weight of impending chaos, I realized there was no turning back. All around us, the air crackled with peril and promise. My legacy unraveled into perilous truth, the dire consequence of wielding light in a world of shadows. At that moment, with the foundation of my existence shaking beneath me, I caught a glimpse of what lay ahead. A future that bore the potential for hope, desperation, and confrontation, hanging delicately in the balance. The storm outside roared with renewed vigor, each clap of thunder reverberating through the walls of our home like a war cry from the universe itself. I felt tension crackle in the air, a turbulent mix of fear and excitement igniting my heart. Rachel's presence poured into the room like dark ink, the shadows around her swirling with a life of their own. I tried to steady my breath, grounding myself amid the tempest of emotions brewing within. "Ah, Sophie," Rachel drawled, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling blend of malice and intrigue. "Such courage you display. But tell me, do you even know what you're truly up against?" The shadows shifted, thrumming with sinister energy as they cascaded around her, an army waiting for their command. I took a step forward, the weight of Liam's presence bolstering my resolve. His intensity matched the darkness, illuminating the way as he stood by my side, an unspoken promise sparking between us. "I know enough to understand that I must confront you to understand my own truth," replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Rachel chuckled, the sound low and hollow. "You think this is about truth? Oh, dear child, truths are but threads in a much larger tapestry, one woven by the council to bind us all." Her eyes gleamed, and I could feel the air thickening, charged with the potency of unspoken histories. "The moment you take your first step into this abyss, there's no retreat. You will surrender to the very darkness you wish to confront." My heart raced, each word wrapping around me like barbed wire. "I'm not afraid of the darkness," I declared, though deep inside, uncertainty slithered, a small voice whispering about the ramifications awaiting me. I could hardly grasp the enormity of what I was facing, and yet, I felt the urge to stand my ground. Liam's hand brushed against mine, a simple gesture that radiated warmth and strength. "You don't have to do this alone, Sophie," he said softly, his eyes locked on mine, anchoring me as layers of fear peeled back, revealing a flicker of hope. "We can figure this out together." Rachel's laughter echoed ominously around us, taunting and cruel. "Together? Oh, how adorably naive. Even your precious ally is nothing more than a pawn in this game, another piece to position in the Council's relentless quest for control. You both will come to know that fate is a wheel, one that never stops turning. Then let us turn the wheel together." I shouted defiantly, the surge of newfound strength spilling from my core and flooding my voice as I confronted Rachel's darkness head-on. "Show me what you're made of, show me why this legacy matters." And in that moment a flicker of vulnerability crossed Rachel's face, just a crack in her steely facade. For the briefest second, I sensed an echo of conflict lurking within her. "You may regret this, Sophie," she warned, though her voice lost some of its venom. "Be cautious, the path you tread is laden with sacrifices." Before I could respond, the ground beneath us rumbled violently, as if the world itself disapproved of our confrontation. I barely steadied myself before the shadows around Rachel surged forward, coiling with a sinister intent, challenging everything I believed about courage and truth. But within that chaos, amidst Rachel's dark army, I spotted something glimmering, something not shrouded in shadows. A fragment of light breaking through the tumult, illuminating a hidden path, a way to claw back the fragments of my father's past and confront the council that loomed ever closer. "Liam, there!" I shouted, pointing towards the ephemeral glow. "If we can reach that light, maybe it can guide us to the truth." My heart hammered in my chest as hope surged within me, compelling me to take action. Regaining his composure, Liam nodded, understanding lighting up his face. "Let us go," he urged, the bond of our shared purpose entwining us tighter. Together we turned toward the beacon of hope, running through the chaos of writhing shadows that threatened to ensnare us, pushing forward even as Rachel's chilling laughter echoed behind us, a haunting reminder of danger stalking our every step. But just as we rushed toward the light, a surge of power swept through the air, throwing me back against the wall. The world distorted around me as terror gripped my heart, and a vision flickered before my eyes, a glimpse of unfinished battles and buried grievances, whispers of heartache and promises left unfulfilled. And then, in that dizzying moment, I heard it, a voice from the abyss, familiar yet harsh. "Sophie." It was my father's voice, rippling through the air like strings in a storm. "You must understand, some truths are more formidable than you can imagine. Do not let them manipulate you." Caught between two worlds, the call of my father, the allure of the light, and the looming presence of Rachel, I faltered. Was I strong enough to weave my way through the darkness, to emerge victorious? Doubt clawed at me as I struggled against the tidal wave of mixed emotions surging within me. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, and Rachel's figure loomed larger before me, her eyes darkening like storm clouds about to unleash their fury. "Run, little girl. But know this, the council is not just watching you now, they are waiting for you." And when they come, nothing will save you from your fate. With that chilling proclamation hanging in the air, everything shifted. Darkness fell like a shroud, and I realized that my journey had only just begun. The fight was far from over, there were deeper layers to uncover, and within them lay the answers I so desperately sought. As I fought to regain my footing amid the unraveling chaos, the pulsating light flickered tantalizingly, calling me toward its warmth. Yet, the echoes of my father's warnings lingered in my mind, and I hesitated, fear and resolve colliding within me once more. What other truths awaited in the shadows? Would I find the strength to face the council and discover what being part of this legacy truly meant? Caught in that storm of uncertainty, I felt the ground beneath me shake as a new reckoning drew closer. While hope flickered on the horizon, an unnerving darkness loomed, whispering of bonds betrayed and battles yet to be fought. I stood at the precipice of a storm, the darkness swirling like a tempest in my chest. Rachel's laughter hung in the air like fog, a haunting presence that tethered me to a fate I barely understood. The cold wind whipped around us, a cruel reminder of how much was at stake. Liam's hand was firm in mine, a guiding force against the malevolent shadows that threatened to consume us. I could feel the weight of Rachel's power pushing against us, the very fabric of my legacy unraveling with each volley exchanged. "Do you see, Sophie?" Rachel taunted. "Your ignorance is a comfort blanket, but out there," she gestured to the encroaching darkness beyond, "it's a battlefield, one your father has tried to shield you from. But you cannot hide forever. You have to fight for your history." A knot twisted in my stomach at her words. I had fought for understanding, for clarity. I thought I knew the demons that haunted my family, but this new threat felt like an avalanche ready to bury me under years of buried scars and victories won at great cost. "You think I'll be swayed by fear?" I replied, trying to sound defiant, though uncertainty clawed at my throat. "Come now," Rachel cooed, her tone syrupy with false sweetness. "I'm here to help you understand the power you inherit. You could rule beside me, Sophie. No more shadows, only strength, a future yours to command." The caress of her voice wrapped around me like barbed wire, confounding me with temptation, but past dilemmas loomed large. My father's image flickered through my thoughts like a spectre. Memories of him were thick with echoes of laughter and warmth, yet shrouded in unspoken fears. "Don't you see?" I barely whispered, desperation quivering beneath my resolve. "This isn't about power. It's about connection, about family, about love. You can't pit me against my own history." "Oh, sweetheart," she said, her voice laced with derision, "family is oftentimes our greatest prison." In that moment, the future seemed to stretch infinitely before me, a kaleidoscope of possibilities, all tied to this legacy. Each one whispered promises of freedom or vengeance, but each came at a price I wasn't sure I could pay. As I wrestled with the weight of her words, the storm outside intensified, shaking the very walls of my reality. My heart raced, it felt like the fabric of time itself was wrapped around me, pulling tighter with each drumming heartbeat. Suddenly, an image popped into my mind, a dying ember in the midst of my fears. "Liam," I said softly, igniting the warmth in his eyes, "at the center of conflict lies the potential for understanding." In that fleeting heartbeat, I made my choice. "It's time to confront the truth." "Together," he affirmed, his voice steady, and I knew, deep in my marrow, that we could navigate through this storm, together. Taking a deep breath, I focused on the pull of that flickering light I had once seen, now growing dangerously dim. "Rachel," I called, grounding myself in purpose. "You said I have the power to change our fate, to know who I am. Then show me. But know this, I refuse to be a pawn, as you've claimed I am." Her smirk faltered, surprise flashing across her features as the shadows swirled around her like frantic dancers. "You dare challenge me? You think you can wield what lies ahead?" "I will not cower in fear," I decreed, finding my strength, my own light flickering defiantly against her encroaching darkness. "This fight is not only for my legacy but for mine and my father's reconciliation," a bridge forged amidst strife. The shadows simmered, dancing restlessly, but I could feel them hesitate, recognizing the resolve I clutched like a lifeline. As the storm erupted outside with its furious might, I knew it echoed the realization that I must not stand alone against forces unbound. "Liam, let us show her that darkness is not the only power at play," I urged, igniting the fire we shared in that moment. What do you propose? He questioned, steadying himself beside me. Together, we can reach the lighter convergence of our values. We'll face the council side by side and channel the love that anchors us as our greatest weapon. Rachel shrieked in anger, her power radiating outward but faltering as I held my ground, unabashed in my resolve. You think love can conquer darkness? She scoffed, but I glimpsed fear swirling behind her eyes, a flicker of concern at the choice I had made, one that demanded a reckoning. Yes, I shouted, the conviction echoing in my soul. Give me the truth, and let me choose my own fate. The shadows hissed as if responding to my challenge, and for a moment, a great calm settled over the chaos, an ethereal silence that allowed clarity to envelop me. I caught a glimpse of the path ahead, a narrow bridge that shimmered amidst the storm, guiding me toward our shared legacy that intertwined with the heart of my father's love. But just as I turned back to Liam, the swirling shadows thrashed violently, an ancient reckoning drawing near. It's time you learned that truth comes at a cost, Sophie. Rachel shrieked one final time, her once tantalizing tone now twisted with rage. As Rachel's shadows lunged at us, I felt an unfurling strength within me. An instinct, an ember ignited in the depths of my spirit, the will to fight not just for myself, but for the bond one sought with my father, to finally wrest back control of my own story. And then, in that chaotic whirlwind, I felt the power surge, it ignited into my very core. I grasped everything I had learned, my father's courage, the wisdom of forgotten battles, and the silenced voices of family intertwined with my own fear and love. We are the inheritance of legacies hidden in shadows, I shouted, channeling that realization into an unstoppable tide. Let us emerge from the darkness together. With a flick of my wrist, I unleashed the light within me, battling against the veil of shadows, my spirit glimmering like a beacon piercing through the chaos, intoxicating the darkness that sought to consume it. The air thickened, but suddenly I felt an echo of my father's warmth behind me, a flicker of trust igniting the fire I carried. The shadows recoiled, the surge of twilight slashing through Rachel's malevolence like a dagger, severing the bond that held fear and misunderstanding together. You will not overshadow what is pure, my heart called out, flooding the abyss with light, ushering in the truth I had longed to know. Finally, as the distillation of shadows began to dissolve, and the storm rushed to settle, I turned to see Liam standing beside me, unwavering, resolute. Together, we faced Rachel, the remnants of tumult flickering away until only the dim light of understanding emerged from the depths. In that moment, the weight of silence enveloped the room, echoes of history whispering through the air. I could feel my father nearby, his presence wrapping itself around me, tender yet strong, finally acknowledging the light of my resolve and love burgeoning into a truth I could no longer ignore. And as Rachel's darkness simmered to a hush, I stood tall, bathed in the glow of a new dawn, bristling with power unclaimed for so long. You fought against love, Rachel, you've underestimated its strength, I said, heart steady. But you will not take it away from me again. I will embrace the history and the legacies that are my own. Thank you for showing me that. And as those words left my lips, the final shrouds of shadow fell away, flickering into nothingness, leaving no trace behind, scattering fragments of doubt until only raw power found its home in me, no longer a stranger to my history, but a fierce warrior ready to embrace my destiny. I would rise from the ashes, forge a path where darkness dared to tread, and find the harmony amidst chaos, celebrating love in the face of uncertainty, until every story of injustice found its resolution. And so, as the first rays of dawn broke through the storm clouds outside, illuminating the horizon beyond Rachel's retreating shadow, I knew deep in my being that I was finally free. A truth born from love would lead me forward, and with it, I'd reunite the thread of history, my father by my side. I stepped forward into the light, feeling the weight of my choices cascading behind me. This was the beginning of my own story, one where love transcended fear, a narrative still unwritten, but bursting with potential, with a final line echoing in the tapestry of my heart. In the thrill of conflict, I found my truth, and thus, my forever.